Today is August the 5th. What did Jesus write? Here we have a passage. Let's go ahead and read the passage. I want to make a few comments about it. Each of them went to their home while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning he came again to the temple, and all the people came to him. He sat down and he began to teach them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, making her stand before all of them. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, in the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women. What do you say to do?" They said this to test him so that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and he wrote with his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and he said to them, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Once again he bent down and wrote on the ground. When they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, sir." Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way from now on, and do not sin again." It's interesting here, this story. The passage itself probably is not part of the original Gospel of John. The earliest manuscript that includes it comes from the 6th century. We have manuscripts from the 4th and 5th centuries. They don't include it. Plus, there's another manuscript from the 6th century that includes this passage, but not in this place. They put it at the end of the book of Luke. All of that tends to me to say, no, this is probably not from the hand of John in the Gospel of John. But what Jesus does and says here is very consistent with Jesus' ministry. Now, you know, a lot of the Gospels were compiled from things that had been written down. In the chosen, Matthew is very careful to keep a notebook and to write things down. I think that actually did happen. I think this is a legitimate story from the ministry of Jesus. Maybe not from John, but it certainly, I believe, occurred. So what happens in the story? Well, first of all, the scribes and the Pharisees bring a woman caught in adultery to Jesus. When they bring her, it's interesting, there is no man. Keep that in mind. This is probably a setup. They paid a man to go in, begin to commit the act of adultery with her, and then they burst in, grabbed her, and took her out. Now, because they caught her in the act of adultery, it's very possible that she is naked, or at the very least, all she has is a sheet wrapped around her. There she is, standing before the crowd, shamed, standing before Jesus. Jesus bends down and begins to write. The Pharisees say, "Moses said to stone her." Did he? Let's read that passage from Deuteronomy 22:13 to 30.
Deuteronomy 22, verses 13 through 30, New Revised Standard Edition. Suppose a man marries a woman, but after going into her, dislikes her, and makes up charges against her, slandering her by saying, "I married this woman, but when I lay with her, I did not find evidence of her virginity." The father of the young woman and the mother shall then submit evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. The father of the young woman shall say to the elders, "I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her, and now he has made up charges against her, saying, 'I did not find evidence of your daughter's virginity, but here is the evidence of my daughter's virginity.'" Then they shall spread out a cloth before the elders of the town. The elders of that town shall take the man and punish him. They shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, which they shall give to the young woman's father, because he has slandered a virgin of Israel. She shall remain his wife. He shall not be permitted to divorce her as long as he lives. If, however, this charge is true, that the evidence of the young woman's virginity was not found, then they shall bring the young woman out of the entrance of her father's house. Then the men of the town shall stone her to death, because she has committed a disgraceful act in Israel by prostituting herself in her father's house. So you shall purge evil from your midst. If a man is discovered lying with the wife of another man, both of them shall die, the man who lay with the woman as well as the woman. So you shall purge the evil from Israel. If there is a young woman, a virgin already engaged to be married, and a man meets her in the town and lies with her, you shall bring both of them to the gate of that town and stone them to death. The young woman because she did not cry for help in the town, and the man because he violated his neighbor's wife. So you shall purge the evil in your midst. But if the man meets an engaged woman in the open country, and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lies with her shall die. You shall do nothing to the young woman. The young woman has not committed an offense punishable by death, because this case is like that of someone who attacks and murders a neighbor. Since he found her in the open country, the engaged woman may have cried for help, but there was no one to rescue her. If a man meets a virgin who is not engaged and seizes her and lies with her, and they are discovered, the man who lie with her shall give 50 shekels of silver to the young woman's father, and she shall become his wife. Because he violated her, he shall not be permitted to divorce her as long as he lives. A man shall not marry his father's wife, thereby violating his father's rights.
So, according to the law of Moses, if she is married or if she is betrothed to be married, she should be stoned. But we don't know anything else about her. In fact, if she is not betrothed, the one who abused her would have paid a fine to her father. She would not have been stoned. Well, the Pharisees say, Moses says to stone her. And what does Jesus do? He stoops down and he writes on the ground. So what was he doing? What was he writing? Some think that he may have been writing the 10 Commandments, and that's certainly a possibility. The next words out of his mouth are, let the one without sin cast the first stone. Writing the 10 Commandments, they would have realized we are guilty as well. Some believe that Jesus was simply doodling. He was doing anything to not look at the nakedness of the woman. There's a third possibility. Maybe Jesus was writing Deuteronomy 6 and 7. On the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, the death sentence shall be executed. A person must not be put to death on the evidence of only 1 witness. The hands of the witnesses shall be the first raised against the person to execute the death penalty, and afterward, the hands of all the people. Maybe Jesus wrote that down, saying, it's to you to cast the first stone, if that's what you want to do. The fact is, after hearing Jesus' words, they all began to filter out, starting with the eldest, probably the scribes and the Pharisees, ending with the youngest. And then Jesus addressed the woman. Where are the ones who condemned you? She said, they're no longer here. Jesus said, I don't condemn you either. But stop this. Stop sinning. What a beautiful story. What do we do about that today? Are you judging someone? Look carefully at what you're doing. Forgive. Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version by Emily Herrera. Let's Find Out Together has a companion podcast called Salty Saints. Zach Killy and I discuss apologetics, theology, and scripture. Look for Salty Saints on your favorite podcast app.